deal with some stuff. So, another React video. We're doing another one shot. This was a video that I actually haven't even watched yet, so we're all in this together. Yay! StarTalk plus Neil deGrasse Tyson and I don't know the other host name. Someone can let me know down in the comments below. And interview exploring self-organization nature of neurons and brain cells, emphasizing how biological systems inherently carry instructions that guide their development and structure without requiring detailed blueprints like in engineering, even though there are blueprints. It's called DNA. I'm interested to see what they even have to say and if I agree with everything or not. Wow, let's get it.
Neurons are self-organizing. A, how do they know that they're self-organizing, and how do
DNA.
they know where to go and be organized?
DNA. And their little feely tentacle things. I'm just guessing. Sorry.
That's a very good question. And I mean, self-organization is a remarkable force of nature and biology, right? And very often when we do this experiments in a dish, to be honest, for very long time, I was sort of like thinking like an engineer in the sense that, oh, if you want to build something in a dish, let's say a circuit, you know, you better sort of like know the blueprint. You better know like the instructions and provide them at the right time. And so you don't start building a new house until you really have a very clear plan and the tools. But what we realize with time is that in biology, actually,
Mm,
cells come with the instructions.
they
So
do.
once you
Hey, someone else. Woo! Yeah, he's right. Um, I don't know if I'm right as well with the DNA. I might have cut him off.
make a specific cell actually comes with the instruction. And then by connecting, let's say, to another cell, it reveals another set of instructions
Right.
and another one and another one. And that's why we call this process self-organization. So which really is the formation of order structured from, relatively homogeneous elements, which by the way, like talking of physics and chemistry, this was known from the 19th century. I mean, there are classic experiments that show, that molecules organize quite beautifully. You
Is he just gonna say it? It's the simple answer. He's just all these words. Jesus Christ. I mean, I get he's trying to drive the point home, anyways. Anyone that's really studied anatomy and physiology would probably be able to give you the simpler answer much more quickly. I'm sure he's a science. I don't even know the background yet. I'm being a little ignorant here, but there's a little fun in that too. Uh, yeah, at least from my perspective, it's definitely DNA. Obviously, like your cells, they interact with each other like blood drops off the oxygen to the brain, collects the oxygen with the hemoglobin, and it's like more microscopic particles, more microscopic. There's layers, and DNA serves as a fundamental layer of instruction when it comes to biology. It's the organization of whatever the names are for the little pieces, puzzle pieces, little shape, hexagon, octagon, whatever the hell you want to represent it as, pentagons, those little things that connect in the little splices that spiral that end up building the components of a cell, and also the little other things like RNA. What does that have to do with mitochondria? I don't know. I'm not an expert, but maybe you can let me know down in the comments. Maybe they'll actually get into the details here because I feel like this is something I learned like 20 years ago at this point, and now it's like being understood again. I don't know. That kind of throws me off.
the Rayleigh-Bernard convection, I guess, is the classic example. But biology just brings it to the next level and now organizes cells pretty much on their own.
So what you're doing is you're bringing these together in this culture, this 3D culture, where the message and directions are already resident inside of the cell. So
I thought we figured this out like decades ago, right? Am I lost? Did we like go backwards? Did we lose brain cells? I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have lost brain cells over time. Let's be real, but okay, interesting. I mean, maybe this is how they deliver it to the newer audience. I don't know. Uh, oh, let's see.
when you put them together or group them, they basically do what they were going to do anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
With one detail, which is we have to make the parts right.
Uh-huh.
If you don't have the right parts, then of course they won't know what to do.
What to do.
Actually, what we spend a lot of time generally is making the parts. And let's think about the human brain. I mean, the reason why the human brain is remarkable is because it has all these parts, which are very different. Unlike, let's say, the liver is relatively homogeneous, right? A few cell types, kind of like any part is like any other.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the brain, and now you have thousands of cell types. I mean, the recent estimates, say that there are probably 2,000 cell types just in the human brain,
Wow.
right? Scattered through all these nuclei and regions.
Hmm.
And the remarkable abilities of the brain really result from the cells interacting with each other. So in the early days,
I mean, that's the whole body, though. That's been the whole beauty of the body. I think it's just maybe it's the whole fact that it was easier to look at other organs besides the brain back then relative to now. Because I don't know, you can get as dark and deep as you can when it comes to research. Obviously, there's even more less intrusive, or well, yeah, there's more less intrusive options of researching brain development and everything else without risking someone's life too, especially these days. So, lo and behold, it's all similar. It's all relative. Just the brain has a lot more going on, obviously, because it runs the whole body. All right, let's go.
15 years ago, we were making just a few cells, like a few spinal cord neuron cells, or maybe a few cortical neurons. But then we've never really leveraged the ability of the cells to connect with each other. And so that's where essentially
Hmm.
assembloids came, where once we figure out how to make some of the cell types, some of these brain regions, putting them together essentially, was unleashing like new forces of self-organization, which is really what the brain does.
Yeah, yeah, that is what the brain does, like whether we know it or not. But fucking train man every time. Let's go.
I mean, the brain builds itself at the end of the day, if you think about it, right?
And it reorganizes itself.
Ah,
Like if you damage a part of your brain, it will reorganize itself so that that function might be taken up someplace else.
At least early in development, yes. Early
Hmm.
development, it will do so. And then the more you
Hmm.
progress, the less you
The
can do
less that
that.
happens, right?
It's not like with stem cells and trains. Uh, that is interesting because from what I understand of stem cell research, basically like the blank cells from unborn, like developing human, it goes along with what this guy's saying. He's just saying it in a much simpler, nicer way. But yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense when you think of it like that.
If you
Exactly.
leave your cultured brain cells in the dish for 9 months, a year, what
Yeah.
happens to them then? Do they just take care of business on their own, or do they just fade away?
Something crawls out of the petri dish.
There you go.
You have the smartest dish in the world.
It'll chase you down the corridor.
Get that fork away from me.
But that was something actually, really fascinating that we discovered, like, almost 10 years ago. So at one point, we were, my lab was still like in the early days. And at one point, we realized that, well, I mean, it's an expensive experiment. You have to keep feeding the cells, and I was running out of money in the lab. And so I
Hmm.
told everybody in the lab, I said,
Hungry cells. Ooh. Wow. I mean, lo and behold, it just took a bunch of time for us to be able to do the things that we thought we could do. So, I mean, take that for what it is. Very interesting that we're finally truly understanding it, but I feel like all these different like finish lines again cross simultaneously or one after the other. It's like once you figure out one thing, like when you figure out this hidden clock, the blueprint of the brain itself, you start to utilize that understanding toward a different aspect of reality. Lo and behold, the whole connection to consciousness and AI and everything else, and just that whole theory of everything. It's relative as it that also serves as a fundamental blueprint, whether we understand it or not, because that is just how reality works. That is the measurable sense of reality and existence. And DNA is just the biological understanding of that, how cells interact. Also, biological understanding because each cell have a different job based on what the DNA says it's supposed to do. And it starts from the ground up, like everything else, like even society. It starts from the ground up. You can't have function in society without some workforce, right? Without the people. Otherwise, it's not really society now, is it?
you better go in your incubators and like make sure that you're not maintaining cultures that we don't need. We need to focus. We need to save money. And
Hmm.
then somebody in the lab comes and says, "Oh, should I also like remove the ones that are like 300 days old?" I was like, "What do you mean like 300 days old?" It's like, yeah, I mean, I knew that we were keeping them for very long periods of time,
Jesus.
but I had no idea that we could keep them for such a long period of time. And it turns out that
Wow.
once you make this cluster of cells, and it's sort of like, I wish I could show you. I wish you were here in the lab.
It's almost like how people work. It's like you keep feeding it and feeding it, you keep sustaining its life, and it keeps going. I feel like that probably helps us understand like early life on this planet too. I'm sure that's how it worked because the ocean, basically the whole ocean world that it was back then, where microorganisms thrived in the water and had to go off like the elements and nutrients that were available to it from its environment that facilitated its growth, and then the cells work together. This is like the whole cell working together part that they started to do. They just put a bunch of stuff in a little bit of water and kept giving it food to sustain it, and gave it a chance to evolve, to overcome its struggles and to build back better, to survive over time, right?
And I could show you, or maybe I can try. But they look something like this.
All right.
I see it.
These are
See 'em?
they're not a lot. They're
It's dandruff in a bottle.
still like fixed. You see, so they're like relatively large clumps of cells. They're floating in the media in the
Wow.
incubators. You keep going and change media. And then at one point, we realized we can keep them for very long periods of time. In fact, we maintain now
Sounds like mold. I feel it's like human mold. Huh. Is this how we get zombies?
the longest cultures that have ever been reported. Like you can keep them for years. And so now the question was, are they
Or is it AI that make the zombies? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
stuck in development? Are they progressing in development?
Ah.
And through a series of papers, we
Wow.
discovered something really fascinating. It's like they actually keep track of time really well. So
How? Like, well, maybe not how. I think I understand the how. I think it's the rate of decay, rate of growth, rate of change. Maybe that's how. Because I'm thinking of it like how a digestive system works, right? When you sustain ourselves, it takes a certain amount of time for the food to go through our body to get digested, for everything to get extracted. Maybe that's the type of cycle that these microorganisms understand, because I mean that's all it really perceives anyways, is its intake. It doesn't have eyeballs, it doesn't see the world like we do. It sees it from its perspective, and it goes, theory of everything jargon.
well that once they actually arrive at about 9 months of keeping them in a dish,
Hmm.
they actually transition in terms of their gene expression and some of the properties of the cells to
They
a
get
postnatal
comfortable.
brain. So it's almost like they know that birth should happen.
Wow.
There's almost, and so like we think that there's some sort
Huh.
of internal clock that keeps track of time.
Is this the brain clock that I've read about?
Yeah, this is the brain clock, exactly.
To replicate, that makes sense too, because in order for cells to replicate, it needs to build up the building blocks, the nutrients for it to create a new, smaller version of itself that can also grow off the food. So these things get pregnant off of food. Wow. That's, hmm. It makes sense in a weird way. I feel like that's why we have what was it, the term for like self-replicating? It starts with an A. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below.
I'm fascinated now that these cells have the ability to understand basically
Asexual. My bad.
a calendar. I mean, because they're not observing the sun going across the sky a day and a night.
Yeah. So what's doing the ticking
What's the-
inside? the-
exactly.
So, I mean, you may think that this is, surprising, but if you think about it, it's not that surprising. I mean, every
It's
time you make
not.
a human, you always make it in like 280 days. And here's the interesting thing. If you take mouse stem cells, okay,
Mhm.
or we have like chimp stem cells, and you differentiate them the same way in a dish, they'll finish development in their own time.
In the same, but and
Mm-hmm.
that same time period reflects the gestation period of a chimp or a
Exactly.
mouse.
Like it will be 3 weeks for the rat,
Wow.
and it will be like,
Wow.
whatever is for. So this is
So it's relative to the possibility of like total makeup is a consideration in its blueprint for its future development, which probably explains and differentiates humans from other animals, right? Think think so.
I mean, evolution has actually selected,
Yeah.
very well, like the spirits of development. And so they're intrinsic to the cells. I think what was surprising for us was that this happens also outside of the body, right? Like outside of the uterus. Of course, this is not to say that all aspects of development are recapitulated.
Well, think of it this way, it doesn't matter where it happens as long as it's able to happen, right? It, the only part of the where that really matters is the sustainability from the environment, or the possibility of sustaining its own existence within the environment. If it's allowed to do that, it's like we can't breathe in space, but we can if we facilitate an area and an environment to breathe within space, whether it's a planet or a space station. So that's where perspective really makes a difference in trying to understand these sort of things.
I mean, there are all kinds of things that are coming, right? All kinds of informations that are coming that are shaping development. And we know that the more you invest in human brain development, the more the environment is important, like sensory information,
Hmm.
right? Like cognitive development, think about motor behavior afterwards. But especially at early stages of development, everything is quite well regimented and goes according to a calendar. Nobody knows what the clock is. So
You don't know yet. I mean, I don't. Well, the clocks probably has to do similar with the theory of everything, but also it has to do with, again, possibilities. There's a reason why humans came from monkeys, perhaps, and there's a lot of similarities from that, and monkeys came from something else and something. So we're working from now backwards yet again. Even though it's always kind of been the methodology, the scientific method when it comes to physiology and biology, is trying to understand how one step came to the next. The actual order of operations. The reason why, I mean, curiosity. A lot of people just want to learn these type of things, and maybe for the instance where all of human life is wiped out, but for whatever reason, robots stay behind. If they know how to replicate humans, if they want to run the experiment again, I guess they can, if they can facilitate that sort of environment with that sort of understanding. And then maybe that generation will become like pets or something. Hopefully not, but that gets a little like dystopian type thing when you think too far ahead. But there's a lot of good little points of understanding here. It's relative in some way, shape, or form. Like, wow, I'm surprised he just doesn't mention DNA. But I think that might have to do with the fact that it's still very hard to measure DNA. Because if we could measure DNA as well as the AI that's designed to do it can, as I think there's been some reporting on AIs being able to figure out the genome or parts of the genome that we just haven't discovered yet. I'm sure they're working on that now, anyways. But obviously, if we understood the importance of each aspect of the DNA relative to the total form that it creates and represents, then we'd be a step close to the making artificial biological humans, which we've also been working on in other aspects. Man, the future's gonna be freaking crazy. It's gonna be expensive too. Oh my god. It's like so many things that can happen, and it's wild that media reflects this in its own way, in many different ways. It for people that realize this and end up losing their minds, like, wow. You feel bad, but that's like, I don't know. I know this is a little bit off topic from the video, but it has to do with the brain. So maybe not so much, but it's wow. Things just get harder, but it gets easier as well the more that we understand. why things get harder. As weird as a sentence as that might sound. But I think this is another good example of the importance of such understanding, because these type of things are going to help ensure the survival of humanity. I'm very positive about that, at least. Maybe I don't know. It depends on what media flavor you pick, what movie you pick for the ending, or what's going to come next at this point, because a lot of these sci-fi things are just coming closer and closer to reality. What might actually happen and what might not, that's determined by the person that's involved at this point and their reasons and intents. So it's gonna be interesting seeing the development of a lot of these things going forward. That's why I always like to pay attention to this stuff too.
So nobody knows what the molecular mechanism of it is, but it is somewhere in the cells. It's something that is counting somehow time, and that's why it's such a great time to do neuroscience.
I think it's just the natural rate of development and decay. Maybe I want to say it has to do with the DNA somewhere, that when a certain amount of nutrients, or maybe there's like it takes in so many nutrients that it doesn't know what to do with, so it allows like all the things that come from those nutrients to maybe have like a backlog, and it just separates once that can be self-sufficient, like developing an AI that can be autonomous, or an AI develops another AI that can be autonomous, like a robot, and plants it, and that robot can walk around and learn how to do things. That's the technical way of thinking about it, but I bet it has to do with something in the DNA, something in that blueprint that we just haven't been able to measure ourselves yet, as well as nutrients and their role in the building blocks for each of these types of cells. Because these cells, as he mentions, the more understanding of the details and the nuances for each type of cell, and the more understanding of their role when it comes to the whole formation and function of the brain, the faculties of it, complexities involved in that, then the more we can understand how to survive. But also, the other thing is how to manipulate, which it's both are going to exist at some point in time. It's just at this point when. That's just something to keep in mind, especially if you're getting into this type of field. That's why philosophy is important. And if you go back to the last video, the last reaction that we did, uh, this just helps to prove the importance of that philosophy. Or the, I don't even know what to say. It's, oh man, it hits me like a truck every time. Just trying to think of things like this, but it makes sense. Yet also the fact that I'm ignorant to these details and that I have no experience in like the finer like details of these things, that piques my interest. I'm sure it piques yours to an extent. Maybe you'll want to, if you have the time to do so, take time to get into this field and do something with it. Do something with the knowledge. Learn, experience that journey. You know.
Science. And like more people should like come and do that.
Oh, that was it. The end. Yeah, go check out StarTalk. I always check them out here and there. Basically like this. So it's just nice to learn these little perspectives, the developments of what's going on in life and science. Whether or not we as individuals can utilize these on a day-to-day basis yet, but I'm sure within like 5 or 10 years there'll be some appetite for it. But I think currently we have to get past our own issues as societies, a collection of societies, and really clamp down on the corruption and the manipulation that goes on, if we're actually going to be able to experience these sort of developments in technology. Oh man, existentialism, am I right? Anyways, if you like this, let me know. Like, sub, follow, check out this original video from StarTalk. Give them a like, follow. If I find a different creator of interest, I'll also do a little react like this again. But for now, this is Spark signing out. Hopefully the volume wasn't too bad. I didn't do too much sound check prior. I'm really trying to clamp down in this process for myself, get some more practice in when it comes to talking, recording, streaming, and video editing. So as this journey continues, as the content gets better in quality, hopefully everyone appreciates that. Doing the best I can, guys. Also maybe try to stretch into other different things as I get better at these types of presentations, whether it's React videos or gaming, etc., commentary. Uh, as for references and stuff, my brain shuts off every now and again, so just don't mind it. But I'm sure we're all human, right? We all get it. All right, good. Anyways, till next time, this is Spark saying peace.